back, everybody. Bob Baumhauer's Victory Grill here in Tuscaloosa. Sight every Thursday. After his practice over at the university, and of course they are also getting ready to cut the ribbon, as we mentioned, at that Alabama Advantage Center, with the NIL being the thrust there. We're visiting as our media guest with Chris Lowe, senior writer for ESPN. Chris, when you go around the country and talk to folks and they want to know about the NIL, can you answer them distinctly, or is it a different answer and a different approach at the different parts of the country?
It's sort of like trying to kick a field goal, Eli, and the goalposts move all the time while you're trying to kick them. You know, and I think everyone's definition of what NIL is probably varies. If you go to this school versus that school, you know, it started out kids being able to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. If you're Bryce Young or Will Anderson Jr., and you're a great football player, if your car dealership wants to use you to advertise. And what it's become, though, and this is to me the part that was sort of silly when they went down this road, it's become one big recruiting inducement. And that's sort of the way schools use it now. And it's not going away. You know, it's sort of like the old cliche that toothpaste is sort of hard to put, or impossible really to put back in the tube. And I think the schools and the administrations and the coaches who adapt the best and learn how to sort of evolve and use it to their advantage are the ones that are going to prosper. I think at some point, whether it's Congress or somebody, there will be some type of, I don't know, Coach Saban has been a part of some talks up in D.C. There will be some type of regulation, some type of structure put in where at least it's all, there's some type of, I would say, you know, everyone's sort of playing by the same rules, I guess is what I would say.
Exactly right. Chris Lowe is with us. Our phone number is 877-202-BAMA, 877-202-BAMA. Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban. I love the matchup because, yes, they like to snipe at each other, but they also respect each other. And when you talk about geniuses, you got a defensive genius in Nick Saban, an offensive genius in Lane Kiffin, who grew up at the feet of a defensive genius, his daddy, Monty Kiffin. It always makes for a great weekend wherever you're playing, here or at Vaught Hemingway.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Monty because, you know, Monty's one of the best defensive minds out there, and I think a lot of what Lane does is one of the reasons he is so good at doing what he does is he grew up with a dad who was a defensive coach, and I think he understands defenses.
He really does, yeah. Coach Saban just making his way here to Baumhauer's, and he'll be joining us in just a moment or so as we welcome you guys in wherever you're listening to our show. Coach, good to see you, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Good to be here. How's everybody tonight?
We're doing well. We were just talking about Monty Kiffin. Not only Lance, I said, you know, you talk about geniuses. I said, a defensive genius, you got you. An offensive genius, well, that's my assessment. You take a look at an offensive genius like Lane, who learned at the feet of a great defensive mind, his dad, Monty. That's what makes, one of the things that makes this matchup so intriguing.
Well, I think that when you grow up around ball, like, you know, Lane did with his dad, being a great coach and a great defensive coordinator, it probably stems your interest and you learn a lot about the game, you know, even growing up. So, and I'm sure as smart as, you know, a lot of these offensive, you know, coaches are right now in terms of going fast ball, multiple formations, multiple motions, making the defense adjust a lot. You know, it's a challenging game for you right now on defense, and you know, but that's what we look forward to. You know, we look forward to the challenges. If you're a great competitor, you love the challenge, and challenges kind of tell you who you are and where you are, and they also tell you what you're not. So I think confidence is important. I think confidence for our team right now is, you know, something that's very important, that they have confidence and they can go out and execute and do things at a high level on a consistent basis, which, you know, we have not done well, and that's something that I think preparation helps you do, as well as having the confidence that you can go out there and do it.
Yeah. Coach, you, of course, know Chris Lowe from ESPN, one of the top writers in this country, and we're thrilled to have him here to join us tonight.
Yeah, Chris has been a great friend for a long time, and certainly somebody we have a lot of respect for. He does a great job.
He does. What you got in your mind for the coach, Chris?
As you were walking in, Nick, we were talking about Monty. I wonder from your perspective, when you're an offensive guy like Lane and you learn under a defensive coach, how much that helps an offensive play caller, an offensive guy, sort of see things, know what the defense is doing, as opposed to maybe someone who grew up under an offensive coach?
Well, I think what really good offensive coaches do is they understand defense. And I think really good defensive coaches really understand offense. Because if you're playing a certain coverage and you line up in it and they know what patterns can beat it, and this day and age of no huddle, you can actually see what the other team's in and, call whatever you want to call to try to beat it. And I think that's what the really, really good offensive coaches do. I think Lane does a lot of that in the game. They're going to, clap, and then they'll clap and not go and look at the sidelines, because your guys think when they clap, we got to get in what we're going to do, and then they go do something else. So, but I think that understanding of defense, knowing what beats three deep zone, know what beats quarters, know what beats cover two, and you try to get in the best things for your team are, a tremendous advantage for really good offensive coaches. Now, I've been around some offensive coaches too that were good offensive coaches that they believed in their system. So they were going to do their system, and they thought it would work, no matter what. But I think the really good guys, they can adapt their system to take advantage of whatever the defense is doing.
Yeah. Coach, you got a question from the readers at AL.com. Edwin in Marietta, Georgia, says, and we're kind of touching on this, Ole Miss is currently ranked number 3 in the SEC in total offense. What makes the offense so difficult to defend? Thank you, and roll tide.
Well, I think, first of all, pace of play. I think that's something that's we had the opportunity to do it last week, so the preparation from last week is got some carryover to this week in terms of pace of play. And, routine and rhythm, create comfort and confidence. So when a team goes fast, a player on defense doesn't have the same opportunity to say, okay, this is the formation, this is what they like to do with these splits and these receiver locations and all that, because they're going 9,000 miles an hour, so you're trying to just get the call so you can get lined up and execute as a group, and communication becomes really, really important. So, and then the system, itself is, challenging enough with the multiple formations, motions. These guys have really good backs, and they do a great job of running the football. And they've got threats that, go along with the passing game, so they got great balance on offense. So that makes it difficult to defend. You can't just defend one thing.
Yeah. Let's go to the phones, Coach. We've got Big C joining us from Greenville, Alabama. Welcome in to the Nick Saban Show. Hello.
Hey, Eli. Hey, Coach. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good, Big C. What's going on?
We're just pulling for the tide. Not giving up on them like some people are, and I've been getting on Facebook this week and telling them all kind of examples of things in the past from a history standpoint. Things, Alabama historically starts slow, but at the end of the year they're like a snowball effect. It starts out slow and then it keeps on going down, and then it turns into an avalanche. And then watch out for everybody else. It's like a big bowling ball going downhill, and the foes get scattered all over the place. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen this year, and I'm looking forward to Saturday's game, and I'm coming up there Saturday to watch it. I feel like we're going to do real well.
Well, good. I appreciate the vote of confidence, and I think that's important. But I do think you bring up a good point. You'd like to think that everybody is motivated internally, that their standard of excellence comes from within them in terms of what they want to be, who they want to be. But in this day and age, a lot of the motivation comes externally, which is not really exactly how you'd like for it to be. But and people can direct those feelings because there's a lot of criticism. A lot of people say a lot of things. Players hear it. And does that affect their confidence, or do they direct their their feelings in a positive way, and that actually motivates them. You know, I actually told the players the story today. You know, when Michael Jordan got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he had 3 special guests. The coach that cut him from his freshman basketball team, the coach that benched him when he was in high school, and the guy that took his place. And he said, these people, I've responded and it directed my feelings for my entire career. I had to try to prove that I was the best player that ever played and that I could be. But he said that was a stimulus to me. It motivated me, you know, that I didn't get frustrated. I didn't get discouraged. I didn't quit. You know, it motivated me to want to do things in a more positive way. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I actually, you know, tell our players we have to direct our feelings in a positive way. It can't affect your confidence. It can't affect what your focus is on what you need to do to be able to play well, to prepare well. So that's what we're trying to get the players to do. So I appreciate your comments.
Big C, thank you. And by the way, Pee Wee is under the weather tonight. That's why he was not our first caller as per usual. So I didn't want you to worry.
Well, I guess I'd have to talk to Pee Wee about, you know, mental toughness is really, really important part of, you know, especially playing the offensive line.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we can't answer the bell. I mean,
what are we going to do?
Under the weather. I mean, come on, Pee Wee.
You hear that, Pee Wee?
Nick, you need to talk to Pee Wee about the difference in playing injured and playing hurt, right? 2 different things.
That's exactly right. So he must really be under the weather.
You mentioned your team's confidence at the outset. How would you characterize the confidence of your team and the way you have seen those guys go about their business this week on the practice field?
Well, you know, the team has done a really good job of preparing, you know, for the game. So, you know, I have a lot of confidence in them. I believe in them. I think that if we have success, that would help everybody's confidence. I really do. You know, there's just a lot of negative vibes out there that people can't get affected by. And, you know, what we focus on as coaches is none of that really affects us. It's, you know, what are you capable of doing relative to what you're doing? You know, I call it the capability gap. And, you know, when we look at each individual player on our team and how can we get that guy to play better so that he can play to the level that he's capable of and everybody can do it on a consistent basis, that's what we really need to do. Because if you look at, you know, our execution and when we've not been able to execute, the difference is we've got 11 guys doing exactly what they're supposed to do, what they're coached to do, the way they're coached to do it with the right techniques and fundamentals. And then when we have issues, we have lack of communication, everybody's not on the same page, and somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do, and now all of a sudden you don't have as good a play. So that's something that everybody's got to buy into. So there isn't any my bads. I mean, that is, there's one thing I hate, is a player messes up and says, my bad. I'm like, is that excuse? Is that excuse you? I mean, is that like saying excuse me? I don't really get it. My bad. We can't have my bads, man. I mean, you don't get redos. I used to give my kids redos when I played with them when they were little. No redos.
Good point.
The next time I write something you don't like, I won't say my bad.
No, we've all learned right here. We're coming right back. More with the coach, more with Chris Lowe, senior writer for ESPN. This is the Nick Saban Show on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Play action to Williams. Simpson looking downfield. Got him anti-head coach. Made the 3. 45. Struck down at the 40. The best gain of the day for Alabama offensively. All the way to the 39-yard line. A 45-yard pickup.
Alabama in their game last week. The 17-3 win over South Florida. Of course, they're playing the Ole Miss Rebels this weekend. Ole Miss a 48-23 winner over Georgia Tech. They are 3-0 on the year. Georgia Tech is. We thank the folks who have joined us on the telephone. We've already heard from our first caller of the night, Big C, who was brought to you by Alabama 811. To help prevent injuries, outages, and loss of life, call 811 or visit al811.com before you dig. It's free, it's simple, and it is the law. Welcome back, everybody. Coach Nick Saban joining us as per usual. Our media guest tonight, Chris Lowe from ESPN. And, Coach, we have another question from the Nick Saban readers at AL.com. From Warrenton, Missouri, Corbin wants to know, how impressive is it for potential recruits to see so many former Bama players doing well in the NFL? No school has more players in the NFL right now than does the University of Alabama. How big is that in recruiting?
No, I think that's huge, and I think it speaks volumes of, what we have at the University of Alabama in terms of the culture of the program, which is created by a lot of people, starting with our administration in athletics, as well as our administration at the institution, Dr. Bell, Greg Byrne, providing resources for us to be able to help players develop and be successful personally, academically, and athletically. So we're able to attract really good players, but it also speaks to the fact that we've done a good job of developing those players so that they have an opportunity. And I think most young guys that you recruit have goals and aspirations of maybe playing in the league someday. So, you know, when you can talk about the fact that you have the greatest number of guys playing in the league on NFL rosters, I think that enhances your recruiting prospects tremendously.
That sort of segues, Nick, what I wanted to ask you. In the pool of kids that you guys in Ohio State and Florida, LSU recruit, how many of those kids, when you go in their living rooms, don't think they're going to play, or their mom or their granddad or their father don't think they're going to play in the NFL? Very few, right?
Yeah, I think most of them have those expectations. And, you know, expectations are great as long as they're really kind of goals and aspirations, and you can stay focused on the process of what you have to do it. So you're doing the things that you need to do to accomplish the goals that you have, because sometimes expectations are sort of a precursor to disappointment and frustrations when things don't work out exactly like you want when you become outcome oriented. So I want players to have those kind of goals and aspirations, but I also want them to be able to stay focused on what they have to do to accomplish them.
Tommy in Leeds is on the telephone with a question. Hey, Tommy, good evening.
Good evening. How y'all doing?
Tommy, good. How are you?
How you doing, Coach Saban? Hey, I have a question to ask you. I just wanted to ask about how the defense going to progress against Ole Miss's offense this week.
I'm sorry.
I didn't quite get that.
I said, how is the defense going to progress against Ole Miss's offense? Because I know they go fast-paced.
Right. Well, that's going to be a challenge for us. And as I said earlier, you know, we got some practice on it last week. I think one of the things that's really difficult about playing against, these fast-paced offenses is it's really difficult to prepare your players in practice. You know, I've talked about that before because, you know, when you have a scout team, you're really showing them a card that tells them what play to run or pass to run or whatever, and the protection, so that you get the picture that you want to get from the particular play. Well, when you try to go fast, the players can't get the plays right. All right, so you don't get a good look at the plays, and the players don't understand how to fit the plays. So what we try to do is we have periods in practice where we actually have two offensive teams going against one defensive team. So they go back and forth so that you can get pace of play at the same time as maybe one team's getting the card and the look while the other team's running a play, and you just go back and forth that way. So we usually do a period or two of that, and then, you know, when we go against each other, our offense can go fast. So that's a little bit more realistic, and that's the way we try to prepare. But I think that's one of the more difficult things to do for your defense is get them prepared for the pace of play, because it's always faster in the game than what you can ever practice it.
Coach, how good is Jackson Dart, the quarterback for Ole Miss?
He's really playing well. First of all, he's a dual threat guy. And, boy, I tell you, they do some quarterback runs with him, which he does a really good job of, but he is a tough guy. And he runs physical and he runs hard, and he's a very, very good passer. So the combination of him being a good passing quarterback and them having a good running game, because they got two really good running backs.
Sure.
And then you got the quarterback runs to go with that, so that creates another gap. It's almost like people who run Wildcat when you got to defend the quarterback run as well. So that gives them one more gap, one more blocker, and you always have to have a +1 player on defense. And you kind of run out of guys if everybody doesn't fit the plays exactly right.
Nick, it looks like you guys will get Tyler Booker back. What does it do for you, not only him, but your offensive line, the cohesiveness to get him back in their guard?
Well, first of all, he's the leader of the group. The guy's a tremendous competitor. He's a really good player, and he's very smart. So he really can help the people around him play better because he's a communicator. A lot of guys that play don't really know how to play and communicate at the same time. In other words, they won't make calls, they don't realize the importance of everybody being on the same page. He does a really good job of that. He was playing right guard, and we actually moved him to left guard because we knew we were going to have an inexperienced left tackle, regardless of which guy played. And both guys have really good ability, and I have confidence that they'll develop nicely. But we put him there so he could help, the left tackle by making calls and good communication. Well, when he didn't play last week, that didn't help that position either. So, that's a cumulative effect sometimes when you lose a guy that's a leader and a vocal guy. It does impact the entire group.
We're coming right back. We've got more with the coach, more with Chris Lowe. Don't you leave us now. This is the Nick Saban Show on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Again, Brown stepping up, looking deep. He doesn't have anybody there except Malachi Moore. Interception, touchback. Malachi makes the pick. There was a misread on the route, but Malachi read it perfectly, reeled it in, and Alabama gets the takeaway to keep the lead at 10-3 and take over possession with 6:29 to go.
One of 8 tackles and a tackle for loss that the senior from Trussville, Alabama, had a weekend ago. Let's get back to the phones at 877-202-BAMA. Harrison is in Florence, Alabama. Hello.
Hey, Eli, how you doing? Coach, how are you tonight?
Good. Harrison, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hopefully next week I'll be there in person, and I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully I can make the trip down. I guess since Pee Wee's under the weather, I'll have an offensive line question for you. I saw a stat this week that Ole Miss has had 10 sacks over the last 3 games, and obviously they've been able to penetrate somehow. What do you think has been their secret to that success, and what can we do to stop it?
Right. Well, they're pretty athletic at defensive end. They're pretty athletic up front. They do a good job of pass rushing, and they do a good job of having some pressures, some simulated pressures. Simulated pressures mean somebody's rushing that's not supposed to rush, and somebody's dropping that's supposed to be rushing. So it challenges your protection a little bit, but you're still playing defense with 7 guys in the back. They do a pretty good job of that. And, Pete's got them playing, well. They got a sound system, so solid. Kids believe in it. They're playing hard. So it's going to be a challenge for us, but we have to protect the quarterback better. There's no doubt about that. We've just been giving up too much pressure. There's too much push in the pocket. We got to get the ball out on time, so it's important for the quarterback to execute, but at the same time, we got to have time to operate as well.
Nick, you mentioned Jackson Dart. He's one of a ton of guys around the country, quarterbacks who transferred. I wonder at that position in particular, how the transfer portal, how much that's changed the game. When you look at Sam Hartman, you've got Bo Nix at Oregon, Penix at Washington, Dart. So many of those guys around the country now that started elsewhere and are playing somewhere else.
Yeah, the guy at LSU.
Yep.
What a game he had last week. So I think it's changed the game tremendously. I think that, the really, really good teams have a more difficult time because you don't lose some of your best players, but you lose a lot of depth on your team. So it makes you younger and you don't have a lot of depth. But it also gives you an opportunity, if you're building a program, to get players from another resource so you can actually rebuild a lot quicker and get to a higher level more quickly. And I think it's creating a lot more parity.
Hey, Coach, I know you're going to be leaving us a little earlier than normal here this evening because there's a ribbon cutting taking place over at Bryant-Denny Stadium, the Alabama Advantage Center, one of a kind, a first of its kind, dedicated location to the NIL and all that's involved with those three letters. How much do you know about it? What's the approach? How do the student athletes benefit from this?
Right. Well, it really is a facility to for them to be able to facilitate opportunities in name, image, and likeness. You know, they've got software there and computers and all the different kinds of things that, you know, guys can go there and actually do a podcast or whatever, you know, to create name, image, and likeness opportunity. So it just creates a way for players to be able to have a facility where they can go do things, where they can take advantage of name, image, and likeness opportunities. And we're the first to have it. I think having quality sponsors that will participate in it will benefit the players tremendously. And I think it's a really good thing and a first-class thing for, you know, our program. And will help us in recruiting because players will see that they have an opportunity to do that.
And it's over at the stadium. It's been a repurposed area, so it's very easily accessible. It's centrally located, so you might want to check it out, folks, as you watch things continue to grow here at the University of Alabama. Our parent company, Learfield Communications, they are involved with the Advantage Center as well, so that's just a bit of what's going on. The coach is not leaving yet, but I just wanted to give you a heads up as to where he's going when he does take off a little bit earlier than usual.
All right, Nick, the toughest question of the night. Had there been an NIL when you were in college at Kent State, what would have been your NIL deal?
Jeez. I don't think there's anybody at Kent State would have given us a deal. But I don't know, you know. I wouldn't trade, you know, my time in college because, you know, when we were in college, your motivation was really because you didn't have a lot and you were working toward trying to create more value for your future so that maybe someday you could have something. So the fear of failure was a tremendous motivator. I think that guys now are more challenged because they have more, which is a good thing for them. Their quality of life is a lot better. But in that, they can't lose their hunger to create value for the future because that's really why you go to college and get an education as well as try to develop a career as a football player.
We're coming back, a final thought or two from Coach Nick Saban, and then more with Chris Lowe from ESPN. That's next on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
It's only a one-score game. Simpson under center, tries to push the pile forward. He does. Touchdown, Alabama. Crimson Tide with 33 seconds to go. Crabs now a 16-3 lead.
We welcome you back to Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show. This segment of the show is brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. With zero sugar and refreshingly delicious, is Coca-Cola Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Well, find out for yourself. And now it's time for the coach's final word, presented each week by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the vehicles are all electric. The feeling is all Mercedes.
You know, I think some people, you know, want things to happen. Other people wish things will happen. And, you know, some people make things happen. And I think that's a challenge all of us have. I mean, our fans, the atmosphere in the stadium, the players, the coaches, you know, everybody involved in Alabama football needs to make it happen in terms of best spirit, positive attitude, positive energy, everybody going out and doing their best job to be their best, to support the team as well as the team to do their best, to play their best so that we have the best chance to be successful in this game. But I think it's big that we have an atmosphere, and our fans have always been great, that can impact and affect this game and help our players, have success in the game, which will help our confidence in terms of growing for the future.
Well, Coach, I'm going to let you go now because you do have to get over to the stadium, and you're on the stage there in about 6 minutes. So get up and go. They got the car ready for us. But thanks for your time, as always.
All right, thank you.
Good
Chris,
to
I
see you.
appreciate you doing this, buddy. Great seeing you again.
Yeah.
Thank
See
you.
you Saturday.
That's Nick Saban. He's heading out. Chris Lowe is going to stay with us from ESPN, the senior writer. And we'll let everybody settle and get on their way here. It's going to be quite the deal over at the stadium tonight, a ribbon cutting and so on. Miss Terry is here, and she's heading out with the coach as well. Chris, let's talk about the health of college football. There's somebody I know quite well who is, has said repeatedly, college football will just never be the same. With all the changes, all the conference changes, the NIL work, all of this, that, and the other. Do you like what you see in the crystal ball, or are you concerned as a sports fan as to where college football is heading?
Eli, I like the thing I like best about college football is the rivalries. Is Alabama, Auburn, USC, UCLA, Ohio State, Michigan. So anything we do in the sport that would potentially eliminate those types of games, and not just the obvious rivalries, LSU, Alabama, Michigan State, Notre Dame. So the fact that we're all sort of seemingly moving toward one big conglomerate of maybe two conferences, the SEC, Big Ten. Now I know the Big 12 has reeled in a bunch of teams, but who would have thought, if I'd have told you 5 years ago that the Pac-12 would essentially cease to exist,
yeah.
And you think of all the history in that conference, all the great players and coaches who've been in the Pac-12. I don't like that part of it. I don't like the fact that we're wiping out entire conferences, and in doing so, the rivalries that to me are the very fabric of college football, some of those are going away. That's the part I don't like. I like the fact that it looks like we're going to move toward more good games. And I know in talking to Nick in past years, he always says, I think we should play at least 10 good games, whether it's 9 SEC games or 8 SEC games and then 2 marquee non-conference games.
Sure.
So I'm all for seeing Alabama and Washington play or Tennessee and Penn State. But I don't like the fact that geographically, USC playing at Maryland.
Yeah.
It just something about
something missing.
Just seems weird. But that's where we're headed. I think, I don't know what the timeline is. Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 6 or 7 years? I think we're probably headed to a point where there's going to be, what's the number, 36, 42 teams all in one big super division of college football and playing each other sort of in a preset NFL-type schedule.
Other big stories of this season, obviously the rebirth of the Colorado Buffaloes. Quite a story to cover, isn't it?
Yeah. Nick's advertising commercial buddy, Deion, right?
Yeah. And they genuinely get along.
No, they do. Yeah,
they do.
I saw what Nick said about Deion, and you saw Deion's comments about Nick earlier. So there's obviously a mutual respect. I think it's been refreshing in a lot of ways. I know some people probably are to the point now where they're tired of hearing about it. But listen, he's unconventional. He's different. He has the kind of cred from being such a great athlete in college and pro, not only in football, but I mean, how many people can play pro baseball and pro football? And Deion did, or Coach Prime, I guess I should call him, right?
Yes, Coach Prime.
To turn that program around as quickly as he has, and think of the publicity he's attracted for that university.
Oh gosh,
you couldn't buy that kind of publicity.
No.
And they're a fun team to watch play. I think anybody who likes football and likes to watch football has enjoyed watching Colorado play the first few weeks. They're fun to watch. His kid, Shador, is a super quarterback. I hate that the Hunter kid got hurt watching him play on offense and defense. They're going to have harder games, tougher tests to come because I do think the Pac-12, as ironic as it may sound, Eli, this may be the best season we've seen in the Pac-12 in a long time, and it's their last season.
Before they say goodbye, yeah.
So
Hey, you just never know. But you're right. It's he has that electricity. He has that something, whatever that something is. He has it that's attracted even the non-football fans.
yeah, and recruits are going to want to play for him. I mean, he's going to walk in the living room, and I can promise you this: the dads and the granddads are going to know exactly who Deion, who Primetime, and the way he's created and sort of that environment. They're going to want to play for him. So I would imagine over the next few recruiting classes, he'll do pretty well. And but it's. I'm not ready to say that Colorado is an elite team nationally. I want to see how they play against USC,
Sure.
and Oregon, and Washington,
Sure.
and some of those schools.
Is the SEC still the elite conference?
They haven't been the first 3 weeks of the season.
No.
But again, as I said at the outset of our show, I'm always careful not to judge a team or a conference just based on 3 weeks of the season. So let's see where this league is in November. Once we get closer to the playoff, I think what's going to happen in the Pac-12 is those teams are going to probably beat up on each other, maybe a little bit in the Big Ten. But I still think there's a couple teams, at least 3 or 4 teams in this league, who are playoff caliber type teams.
If you're just tuning in, we're spending time with Chris Lowe from ESPN, their senior writer. Coach Saban has departed a little bit earlier than normal tonight to attend an event over at the stadium, a ribbon cutting for a new facility over there that deals with the NIL. But if you'd like to join our conversation, we can certainly take questions with Chris. And that phone number on the Yellow Hammer Brewing hotline is 877-202-BAMA. That's 877-202-BAMA. When we talk about what's coming up in college football, a number of storylines come to mind. Where we were just talking about Coach Prime, if you will. He comes from Jackson State, the historically black schools and community schools and universities. Do they benefit as a rollover from all that's going on with him moving in? Because obviously in the state of Alabama, there are a number of such schools. Do they benefit?
No, I think so. To see the success he's had, and I think what it does is those kids that go to the HBCU schools,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably the same with FCS schools. Those kids feel like maybe that they got overlooked among the Alabamas and the LSUs and the Ohio States of the world. Well, all of a sudden, a kid like Shedeur Sanders, now Travis Hunter could have gone anywhere in the country.
Yes.
And he went to Jackson State. But I think they're showing, and Deion is showing, I worked at Jackson State, but my system and the way I do it works here. So, yes, I think that does help. Here would be the flip side of that, Eli, is I hope that, because it's important, you got Eddie George coaching at Tennessee State, for instance.
Sure.
You had Deion at Jackson State. I hope that for those schools' sake, that guys like that don't come in there and they're swept away by bigger schools, because it's a big deal for a school like Tennessee State to have Eddie George coaching them.
Sure.
For Jackson State to have Deion coaching them. But you know what? Like anything else, if you have success at those schools or any school, somebody's going to come call it. Deion interviewed at Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
He interviewed at TCU. There were several schools that talked to him about their head coaching jobs before Rick George in Colorado pulled that trigger.
I could keep talking with you on and on here, but we do have folks stacking up on the telephone here. Let's go to Montevallo and Ruben, who's joining us now. Hello, Ruben. Welcome in.
Hey.
Hey there. How are you? Yes, sir. We got you.
I got a question for Chris. This goes back to the Alabama-Texas game, and it's something that didn't really dawn on me till I was watching it. The time deal, the where the time clock does not stop in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
When is that taking effect? Because I feel like that really hurt the team in a way that they couldn't really make that comeback, that final quarter comeback. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's already taken effect.
Yeah.
Final couple of minutes of the first half and the fourth quarter. But do you like it does take away X number of plays, which ostensibly makes the day a safer day for the athlete.
Ruben, I don't like it, and here's why. One of the things that to me separated college ball and pro ball was in college ball, the clock stopped after the first down was made, the entire game. And you're right, Eli, it gave teams maybe a few more possessions. The other thing it did is it made for more exciting finishes to games.
Right.
You had a chance if you were down a touchdown or more in the last 3-4 minutes of the game, there was more of a likelihood that with the clock stopping after made first downs that you could score. So now it becomes more like the pro game. It doesn't stop. Now it does stop in the final 2 minutes of each half. So that's still the same as it always has been in college ball. But no, I don't like it. They did it to try to shorten games, and I don't know that anybody that really likes college football or watches it or is a college football junkie the way I am really cares if a game's 3 hours and 5 minutes versus 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm there to watch a good game, and we all like exciting finishes. So that's the part I don't like about it.
I hear you. Listen, Chris, you've been very kind to spend a few extra moments with us and share a few of your thoughts and ideas. I enjoyed it. It's always great to have you with us, and the coach seemed to be in a pretty good mood tonight.
Yeah, I had a chance to spend some time with him earlier today, and I know he likes this team. He likes the way they work. He wants to see them play better,
sure,
and more consistently, and be able to. You go back to the Texas game. Bama's winning that game, going into the fourth quarter, and just was not able to finish the football game.
Yeah,
and so think about if they finish that game, the complexion of this season looks a lot different now.
Look at the touchdowns that have been taken off the board.
So I know that he's. As he told me, he's not disappointed in the kids. He says his frustration comes from me not being able to get them to this point to play at the level he thinks they can play at. But there's a lot of season left, and I think we've seen with Nick Saban teams, and I've covered him for a long time, his teams almost always get better as the season goes on.
They always do. Chris, thank you so much, sir, and we'll see you down the road. See you this weekend. Take care of yourself.
Well, Eli, it's great to see you, man. Great to hear you back on the microphone.
Thank you, man. You're so very, very kind. Chris Lowe, senior writer for ESPN. This is the Nick Saban Show on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.